It has been well over a year, but finally the tournament that's lasted longer on the sidelines than most managers last at Ibrox is back. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. The greatest of all time tournament is here. Yes, it went missing for a long time, just like Celtic did in that Scottish Cup final, but we're back to determine who really is the greatest player in Scottish football for the 21st century. And we've got Kieran Tierney taking on Scott Brown. A Scott Brown who, may I add, looks very angry, looks very unimpressed, looks like he's going to kill somebody in this thumbnail. Well, has he done enough to beat up Tierney and advance to the next round? He has. So Kieran Tierney with 38% of the vote, Scott Brown with 62% of the vote. And does Scott Brown deserve the win? For longevity reasons, and for being the captain of Celtic, and for being, at one time, I think he was the highest paid player to move from a non-Old Firm club to a different club in Scotland. I think he might actually still hold that record from Hibs to Celtic. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, either way, Scott Brown won a shitload of trophies, captained a lot of games. Is that good enough to beat Kieran Tierney? 62% of you guys think it is, and he moves into the next round. Well, he will take on the winner of the next matchup between Fraser Foster and Aidan McGeady, as both of those guys will be looking for a place in round 3. Well, they will take on Scott Brown. Scott Brown so far beaten Virgil van Dijk and Kieran Tierney to make it into round 3, so it's not been an easy ride for Scott Brown, and that ride certainly is not over. Will he get the better of Fraser Foster and or Aidan McGeady? Well, we'll find out. That will be our next matchup. But let's get into the comments and let's see what you guys had to say. So, Martin's Well said Tierney wasn't around long enough to be a great Charlie Nicholas syndrome. I mean, he was around 4 years. I think that's long enough, but whatever. We would never sell our club for a quid, I guess that is. Scott Brown all day long. Alistair Bell says no comparison, mainly on the basis that Bruni never had such a delusional notion to join a club in England to prove his worth. Stevie says, what are you on about? If Scott Brown was offered a contract with Arsenal, he 100% would have taken it. Of course he would have, but Scott Brown was never offered that contract because, unlike Kieran Tierney, Scott Brown, you know, he had a limit, he had a ceiling, and it wasn't Arsenal. It just wasn't. Kieran Tierney, I think if you're saying who was the better player in their prime, who had the better peak, I think it would be Kieran Tierney easily. Alistair Bell says, sorry you're Scott Brown now because you're closet Gunnar. Bruni was offered a chance to go to Spurs Newcastle when he played for Celtic, but he knocked him back. Is that true? I don't recall those transfer offers. Alistair Bell says, of course he would. He's a different breed than Tierney. Ross Milton says, no, he wouldn't. He didn't step up once in his career for a Celtic against a team that wasn't Scottish, and he left as soon as Rangers won the league. He did have a pretty bad season that year Rangers won the league, and then he did go to Aberdeen where he didn't really do much there either. But I don't really recall. Scott Brown, similar to Callum McGregor, you know, two players that, yeah, were great for Celtic, but just never really ever got linked to these big clubs in England. I mean, we hear people saying, oh, Scott Brown was. I don't recall it. I don't know if Scott Brown was getting personal and private text messages, but I never recall one Scott Brown being linked to a top club in England or hear about a top club wanting him. And I'm sure that if a top club did want him, he probably would have left, because you look at all the best midfielders, they do tend to leave for England or abroad. As much as they maybe want to stay at Celtic and Rangers, they do go if the club that's interested is right and the money's right. Anyway, guys, that's it. Scott Brown advances. We'll find out who's going to be his opponent in the next tie. It's Aidan McGeady, Fraser Foster. I'll put that poll up in the community section of the channel. Make sure you go and vote in it. And that's it, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Until then, though, being Fog Football, we are going to find out sooner rather than later. Hopefully sooner. Won't go absent again, but we're going to find out who the greatest player of all, well, not of all time, but who the greatest player is in the 21st century in the Scottish footballing books. Anyway, guys, that's it. Till next time. Peace.